Hey, happy Wednesday night. Hope you guys are doing well. As usual, we're going to run it down tonight. I'm having technical difficulties with my TV, so that's why I was a little bit late. So no fantastic background, but we're going to do it anyway. So y'all just get me and no cool background. Anyway, yeah, so Mondays and Wednesdays, we get on here and we run down questions. So feel free to put those in the chat. It can be really around anything. But a lot of what we discussed is macroeconomics, mostly digital asset driven stuff. So crypto, Web3, smart contracts. And then a lot of the things around that, if you do have investments there, what would be good things to do or things that we help people with, the Digital Ascension Group and the family office and the wealth management firm that we have, which is Digital Wealth Partners. So setting up your estate, mitigating taxes if you are going to take some profits, how to think through wealth management strategies for long-term wealth management versus, kind of get rich quick, DeFi, CeFi, different opportunities that exist in the market, what those are, and how to, think about expenses and how to pay for those on the other side of price appreciation. And keep your money, keep your wealth on the other side of it. Most lottery winners go broke within 3 to 5 years, actually file bankruptcy after they win hundreds of millions of dollars, which is actually very sad, that only 30% of those people figure it out. There's a high correlation between the people that choose the annuitized payments versus the lump sum that actually end up retaining their lottery winnings. Some people just need structure and they know this is how much I can spend, and that keeps them from burning through it. But what you really want to do is you want to look at how to secure your money for the long term, make sure that you're mitigating risk of loss, either through lawsuits or other means, and then how to put your money in to work in a way that's sustainable, that supports your lifestyle, that you don't ever really have to touch the principal that you invested. So sometimes that means that could even be done through selling. So I was having a conversation with a gentleman earlier today that he plans to, sell just enough to cover, his current employment income every single month as things appreciate. He's got a bag set aside for that. They'll subsidize his income. And obviously that would still be taxable. He's held those assets for longer than a year. So there will be long-term capital gains tax, and for the amount that he's looking to sell, it's probably going to be in the 15% area. It's going to be more than 18,000, which is the threshold where you don't have any taxes if it is long-term capital gains. And then once you're, if you're single, if it's above like 300,000, then you're going to be in that 20% bracket. But if you're in between the 18 and the 20, it's 15. So it's really not a whole lot of taxes in comparison to what it would be if you had just regular income tax, especially if you're on the higher end of that. And he was. So I think that that's a good way to go about it, especially if the asset continues to appreciate. He'll have to sell less and less each week to accomplish his goals. And then the other portion, he was going to put to the side and have it earn yield or borrow against it. And those are a lot of the things that we help our clients do as well at Digital Wealth Partners. So I will say this, though. One of the main things that you have to have, irrespective, you don't have to have anything. One of the things we work with our clients to do specifically, first off, before anything else, is set up an LLC. So they get their assets into an LLC, and that provides you the most flexibility and most benefits, especially on the other side of price appreciation. If you're looking to sell a portion, you get the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset any tax implications that you're going to have. So what does that mean? You can have all the write-offs that all the people that run a business do. And you're in the business of trading crypto, right? Or making investments. It's a holding company that makes investments. You could consult. You could have an advisory firm that consults for that and makes payments to that, and maybe that's taxed as an S corp, and that passes through to you. But if you have an LLC that holds your assets, again, say you want to buy a vehicle, if it's over 6,000 pounds, you can use accelerated depreciation on that, write off a good chunk of that, and only have to put 20% down if you have decent credit. Finance the vehicle for the business. If it's a nice, F250, $100,000 platinum F250, and you want to put down $20,000 and finance the rest of it, you could write off $60,000. If Trump gets back in and reinstates the full depreciation of the 100%, you could write off the full value of the truck as soon as you drive it off the lot. Even if you only put $20,000 down, you'd be able to write off $100,000 against your income, right? Or what you sold. So you get a lot of benefits like that. The other thing that is going to be extremely important for people that we work with, if they do have digital assets in their LLC, is going to be insurance. So I know a lot of people sell you this like magical insurance policy, and this is what the wealthy do and all that, and they do use it as a vehicle here in the US. And it really, I don't want to say it is magical, but there's a lot of ways that you can leverage it that it really kind of like wows you in the way that you're able to do things. So PPLI is one of the products that we provide our clients. So that's private placement life insurance, if you want to give it a Google. These policies do require a significant amount of assets to fund them. So the minimums on those are going to be at least $5 million in assets to fund them. You fund the policy in kind or in cash. But if you have an LLC and you are the key employee on that company, like it couldn't exist without you, right? You have insurable interest for the company. Then you can take out a key employee policy, and you can actually write off funding that policy on behalf of the business with the assets that came out of it. So it's a really slick way to mitigate taxes if you do want to sell some. The assets that are moved inside the policy, they do have to be managed by an RIA, and they do have to meet certain criteria for how they're structured and invested. You can't fund the policy all up front. That has to meet the 7-pay test. You could get like $2 million in there on a $5 million policy pretty quickly. If you mech it out, so if it becomes a modified endowment contract, you can't borrow against it. So you could fund the full thing up front, but then it's going to inhibit your ability to do a lot of the cool stuff that you want to do most of the time. If it's for your grandkid and you don't care, cool, right? If they're not going to need to borrow against it, you don't need to borrow against it, mech it out, right? But if you do want to be able to borrow against the cash value of the policy and the assets in there, you probably want to structure the payments to fund the policy a specific way. We help our clients do that. And again, we provide all the other resources and constraints around that, the way to facilitate it correctly. So it's a great way to offset your tax implications. The other benefit, once the assets are in there, is you can trade them tax-free. So once they're inside the policy, you swap out of XRP or HBAR, whatever you have a bunch of that's made you a bunch of money, swap it for private equity. Wait until that deal pops off, swap it for the next thing. Get into real estate, swap between real estate. Don't have to 1031 it because you're inside that insurance policy. So it's a magical tool. It's very similar to like an endowment. The wealthy families here in the U.S. Turned insurance into a financial product on purpose, and it provides a very unique avenue globally for residents here to get substantial upside on their assets and protect them while getting, not even deferred taxes, but tax write-offs for structuring things. So very cool. We do require that you do have an entity set up and it's at least $5 million in assets before we look at that. So if you anticipate that you're going to have a significant upside in your digital assets and you would like to exploit that option, I would recommend just go ahead and setting up an LLC for yourself, because that is going to allow you to, get the write-off and the other benefits I discussed earlier. So I normally ramble on a little bit when I start these and just talk about a few things, but I wanted to mention the LLC and the insurance. We've had a few questions about those in the last week here, and so wanted to touch on them. And if you want me to reiterate on any of that, please just put it in the chat and we'll go ahead and dive into the great questions that you guys always ask. All right. First one, off the jump here, we got Jesse Escobar. Hey, brother. Hope you're doing good. Appreciate you being here on Wednesday night. He says, what options will be available to earn once you go live in a couple weeks? Stake. I'm assuming he means staking. He says stacking or yield. Can you share the risk for each? Just finished the video from the Beyond Broke Mastermind, Matt, giving us a bit more concern. Yeah, so we did have Matt Schneider, our CIO, from Digital Wealth Partners in the mastermind on Monday of this week. And he broke down the returns and the strategy that we currently have available for clients there. And we do covered calls and puts. So the assets never leave qualified custody. I think that'll become more relevant as legislation and regulations change. The SEC proposed a custody rule where anybody managing assets would have to stay in qualified custody at the beginning of last year, February of 23. It has not been moved in yet, but in anticipation of that, we're trying to build out strategies and solutions that cater to it. So our clients' assets never leave Anchorage. You have full visibility of them. And again, with the covered calls and puts, if you have over 2 million, we can work with you directly. If you do not have that much in assets, we do have another solution. It's a little bit more complicated, but same outcome, same benefits. So there are some risks, right? And Matt disclosed those in the video, but I'll kind of give a high level here for people that might be listening on YouTube. And if you want greater detail on this, again, you just join, Beyond Broke Mastermind. The video's in there in the resources section, and you can, join for free. The code for that is Beyond Broke, all capitals, 1, the number 1, MO, and that gets you a month free. You can do social or Carbon 1, and you can get that content and listen to it and then cancel if you want to. I think you'll want to stay. I think we provide a lot of value, but we're always looking for critical feedback also. So there are some risks associated with it. So because there's not a whole lot of liquidity in that market yet for XRP, once it appreciates, I think there'll be substantially more. But people are really only willing to cover the other option to the side of that trade for the options up to like a $2 XRP. So as long as XRP moves sideways or down or up in a channel, like if you had employed this strategy over the past 12 months, you would have made, I think I don't know what Matt told me. I think it was like 15 or 16% returns for just holding your assets in qualified custody if we had employed this for clients. So pretty good return for just sitting your assets in an insured account at a qualified custodian. The risk is if it moves parabolically. So if we don't have a covered call at the price point that it goes to, whatever price we have set the covered call at is where it executes. Those assets are called away. You're given the cash for that value, whatever it was, but you don't get to participate for the rest of the upside, and you would have to buy your assets back, right? So there's risk associated with it, especially if you anticipate a parabolic move in the asset, which I do. So, cognizant of that, I don't have my assets deployed in that strategy. And you can choose not to, right? We just want to be able to provide the solutions that people want. And on the other side of price appreciation, I'm expecting XRP to trade in a channel sideways and be very stable for an extended period of time. And it's likely that we'll be able to generate really good returns, really good, safe, secure returns for people with this strategy. So that's likely when I'll be employing it for my assets, is on the other side of price appreciation, when I'm comfortable and I believe it's going to be stable for an extended period of time. The contracts happen on a monthly cadence. So that's when the payouts would be. We would want to rack up some returns for a quarter before we started monthly payouts for people, just to make sure that we've got that escrowed and we can appropriate those as people want them. But basically, it's an XRP income fund. It's kind of the premise for that. So if you want more on that, I'm sure that there's probably questions beyond that. And again, you guys can ask them in the chat. But if you wanted a deeper dive on that, Matt does go into very deep detail there in the mastermind. Jesse says, would it be stuck would I be stuck with fees if I wait on the sidelines? Should we not get the pump we're waiting for? Thanks for all you do. Really appreciate the effort. Sincerely, very cautious support. I like it. Yeah, so if assets are in the account, we do charge AUM fees on them. That covers all of it. We really don't make any money on the AUM fees for people. Between partnership agreements, custody cost, insurance, compliance and risk, payroll, and everything else, I'm losing money every month on the wealth management currently. I'm just being transparent with you guys. I've built this in anticipation of price appreciation for the XRP community in particular, because they're all the things that I want. I want to be able to borrow against my XRP. I want to be able to earn yield on my XRP. I want to do that in qualified custody and know that I'm insured and that it's secure and that I have a way to pass that on to my heirs with no problems, that my wife and children are going to be taken care of. All those things, right? And I want to protect my assets, hold them in an LLC and a trust, and know that everything is ready and set up for price appreciation. So, you know, it hasn't been easy. Nobody else was going to build it if I wasn't going to. And our team that we've built, we've gotten literally further than anybody else in the industry. There's nobody else that is doing what we're doing or creating the products or services that we have and are able to offer. But to your point here, till the assets appreciate in value, it may not be the best idea to go ahead and employ this strategy, again, because the risk associated with the assets being called away. So again, a lot of what we've done has just been very forward thinking. This strategy is one of those things. So we do have a way to earn the yield, but there is a risk associated with it. If the asset goes down, so you actually make money on the asset moving down. If it goes sideways, you make money. If it goes up a little bit, you make money. The only time you have a risk is if there's a big move to the upside. So on the other side of it, that's when I'll be employing this strategy. And to your point, that may be the best time when other people want to get on board. I will say, after talking with our team, it's likely that we will limit our client base to 250 people for the next quarter. We want to be able to make sure that we have the systems and solutions and everything in place, that it's scalable and compliant and all the other things I just mentioned. And so for those reasons, I think we're going to, on the other side of price appreciation, up minimums that we require. Until that happens, we'll keep those at 100,000. The assets do have to be in an entity. But on the other side of price appreciation, it's likely that those will go up, just because, not to say we don't want to help everybody, because I absolutely do. I just don't want it to become a point where we're not able to deliver on promises to people because we've taken on too much or bit off more than we could chew. I'm guilty of that. I do that frequently, unfortunately, and I'm learning from it. And so just on that side, we'll likely raise minimums so that we can make sure that our service is as good as it possibly can be. And then Q1 next year, we'll probably open the door for another tranche of clients. We have about half of that full right now at Digital Wealth Partners. So around 120 people currently, been nice enough to work with us. We love our partners. We love our clients. So we do have about 120, 130 more spots available for clients to come on board. But again, within the quarter, it's likely that we will reach that, especially on the other side of price appreciation. And at some point, we will have to kind of reel it in a little bit just to make sure that we can deliver on the promises that we've made to the people that have been proactive, and make sure that we have scalable processes in place to be able to take in new clients. So take that information with what you will, but just letting you guys know where everything's at. David says, hey, Jake, how are you, sir? Once we have our LLC set up with you, awesome, and purchase a vehicle or RV, I like it, the RV, okay. Would it be best to buy through the LLC or personal? What kind of write-offs, if any, can we do? So the RV is very interesting. If you're using the RV to travel, to look at properties, or drive around and do business, look at investment deals, meet with people, right? And then have a place to stay so you don't have to, use a hotel or a plane. That's a justifiable expense. It's definitely over 6,000 pounds. So if you're LLC, if you're the sole member, you could finance it yourself and write it off under the LLC. Yeah, I would do it that way. I would buy it in your personal name, then I would retitle it in the business, is normally what I do with vehicles. And then if you were to refinance it, you could do it through the business. But that's the way that I see most people do it. Is they'll buy it in their personal name and then they'll retitle it in the business in order to get the write-off. So RV is interesting. I haven't heard anybody say that, and that's actually a really good idea. So glad to see you thinking ahead, David. Xavier says, "Hey Jake, how are you, sir? We appreciate you. I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody that comes in here and asks great questions and takes their time out of their evening to spend some time with us." He says, "How safe is my asset in institutional custody? Like seizure from courts, FBI, CIA. We've already seen the seizures of bank accounts in Canada before." It's a really good question. So the assets can't move from the account without your signature. So they can't really be seized. They can't take them. They could blacklist your wallet address in whatever country, but we're beholden to you. And we're not going to sign on a transaction that you don't tell us to sign on to remove your assets. So that's our agreement with you. We could be held liable. There's problems if we do those things. So we've structured it in a way that it is extremely safe. They are going to know who's associated with these accounts. So that's a consideration, right? There's always cost and benefit when you're doing this stuff. So you get all the benefits of the ways to earn yield and borrow against it and use it and all the things I mentioned to begin with. But the drawback there is you have to go through KYC and KYB. Any financial institution is not going to transact or interact with another party that they don't know who they are. And so that's kind of the trade-off you're making. But again, we would not allow a government agency to seize your crypto. We are beholden to our clients, and you are a signer on the account, and assets cannot be removed unless you sign. So they would be there in your wallet address, and you could move them to wherever you needed to move them. It's on a public blockchain. So again, XRP in particular cannot be frozen. The accounts can be blacklisted. So there would be certain parties that wouldn't interact with your wallet if you wanted to move it there and you were on a blacklist. But there would be other wallets that would, right? And you could move it to those wallets and interact with them. It would just be whatever country decided they didn't want to interact with you for whatever reason. So I don't think most people are going to have those problems. Our clients aren't doing illegal activities. We run OFAC and KYB and KYC on people before they're ever let in. So anybody that makes it through that process, it's very unlikely that they're going to have any problems. So I'm not overly concerned about it, but we do have measures in place to make sure that that's not an issue as well. Lo Yan, thank you. They say they are a new member to the mastermind. Whoop, whoop. It's great. I'm glad you're getting value from it. Is it a good idea to open an LLC in the UAE for business and also have a holding corp in my current high tax land in Europe for personal expenses and real estate? Thanks. Very interesting. I would highly encourage you to open up a business account there in the UAE. If you are in high tax land there in Europe, I would assume that's probably the UK. You're still going to get taxed in Europe if you're moving money back there and doing transactions and living there. Realistically, there's some provisions for the UK and Australia and other things that are under the Commonwealth that require that you maintain a certain amount of time outside of those jurisdictions if you don't want to be taxed totally on everything that you're doing inside those jurisdictions. So that's different, I think, between Australia and the UK. They're close, but they are slightly different. I think it's less than 100 days that you can spend in the country for sure, and those have to be documented. Eleanor Terrett does that. She lives here. She's a reporter on Fox News and journalist. But she does go back home and visit her family in the UK on an infrequent basis, and she logs all that and makes sure that she does not spend enough time to trigger tax consequences there in the UK. So she's taxed here in the US. I would think, I love the US. I've grown up here my whole life. Taxes aren't great here either. They're better than the UK, but they're not as good as the UAE. So if you could move a portion of your assets there and spend the majority of your time there in the Middle East, I say the Middle East, in Dubai or the UAE, you're going to be much better off when it comes to tax consequences. We have a UK channel also in the mastermind, so you might look at that as well. And you're going to want to get those assets out of your estate sooner than later, especially if you do live in the UK, because they have a limit on their gift tax of $400,000 every 7 years. So pretty limited, especially if you had assets appreciate. It's going to be very difficult to get them into another country and another corporation on the other side of appreciation. Atlantic Living. Hey, always good to see you here. They have created a acronym, RAIL, for Utility, Regulation, Adoption, Integration, and Legislation. Okay. Mainstream is not focused on Wayne Gretzky's words, I skate to where the puck is going, not where it has been. These are great statements. And I'm with you. I think that we are up for all of those things. I think we will have a Cambrian explosion of adoption here at the end of the year in 2024. Stablecoin regs and a lot of unwinding of other things, dominoes. I've gone through the domino theory multiple times. If you haven't checked that out, it is on my channel. If you want to know what that is, I broke it down in a Carbon 2 call. Actually, it was last night. We have about 15 guys, and gals, there in Carbon 2. And we have an intimate call every other week where we break down specific questions that they have. The majority of those people in that group are high-level executives or people that run larger businesses or corporations and are a bit further along on their estate planning for the digital assets. But not to say, regular person couldn't benefit from those conversations because it's definitely a lot going on there. But I'm with you. I'm trying to, like I said earlier, skate where the puck is going, not looking at where it's at right now. Atlantic Living says, how many of the 100 billion XRP have been burned? I think we're at 99 billion 800 and something million. So maybe 100 million, close to 100 million have been burned. Probably a bit less than 100 million. Do you think Larson's endorsement of Harris could hurt Ripple's development if Trump wins? I don't think it's relevant. They support gay pride, they're from San Francisco. They're in a liberal state. They also paid the syndicate that backed Trump's administration and for crypto. So I think Ripple's very strategic in doing that because they don't know who's going to win the election. I don't think anybody does at this point. I have my biases just like everybody else does, but we'll see, what ends up shaking out. I have a hard time trusting the mainstream media at this point for any predictions that they're putting out. I think they manipulate numbers in both directions, depending on you're watching CNN, or you're watching Fox, you're watching MSNBC. I don't know who to believe in the actual polls. I think we're going to have to actually see what turns out this election and who ends up winning. So I think in that, Ripple's being strategic and just playing both sides of the fence and trying to make sure that they're not in a position where they've bet big on one party or the other and then it reflects poorly in their business for the next 4 years. So you can be mad about it. I don't think it's really relevant. Hey, Hazy Days says, I'm feeling very thankful. I'm glad to see that. I'm in Fort Myers, Florida. Oh my God. And as of wee hours of the morning, we're going to get a direct hit from through Cape Coral, but it ended up coming up the Isle of Siesta Key. I'm glad it didn't get you. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are going to be affected by the hurricane. Milton is what I think the name of it is. There's another one that's not too far behind it. We plan on going to Swell next week. I don't know how that's going to be, right? I don't know if they're going to continue to put it on or what that's going to look like. That's there in Miami. So Miami Beach, I don't think is, too affected by this, but the next one that's right behind it might be a big deal, So stay safe out there. I'm glad to hear that it didn't hit you directly and that you weren't in its path, and God's looking out for you. Just want to say, people that do have some spare prayers, put those out for people that are impacted by that. Looking at a comparison between what Milton looked like in the Gulf versus Katrina, Milton looked worse. Again, that could be optics. I'm not a meteorologist, don't understand all that stuff. I understand that the surge and the levees broke, there in Louisiana when all that happened and all those people were displaced and killed. So hopeful that those hold there in Florida and everything turns out okay. I'm sure it's going to ruin a ton of real estate. Roofers, they're going to be down there, knocking doors and getting insurance claims, I'm sure. There's going to be a lot of insurance to be had, but they don't. Anyway, poor situation. I'm glad that you're okay, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Here's another one. He says, we've had 19 tornado touchdowns in our county, but none of them have come closer than a mile to us. I don't want to miss tonight. I want to thank you for the community, everything. Thank you for being here, brother. Wow. Or ma'am, whichever you are, that means a lot to me, and I appreciate you being on here and taking time out of your evening with everything that you have going on. God bless you. Hopefully, y'all are able to make it through there safe and no harm comes to you or your family. Chadwick says, it's been a pleasure paddling into this epic wave of opportunity with you and your crew. I thank you for bringing Connor on board and opening my eyes to the group. Best $100 in a month per month that I've spent in my life. That's awesome to hear, Chadwick. Thank you for the kind words. I'm really proud of the culture and what we built in the mastermind, and all the wonderful people like yourself that are a part of it. I think, it'll continue to grow. And the people there are super respectful. Everybody answers questions. Everybody's very helpful. It's always been really valuable for me to be a part of a community where people are, like 2 to 5 steps ahead of where I am. When you get so far ahead of somebody else, it's difficult to put yourself in their position or remember what that was like. And you're also giving them things that are, reasonable for you, but may not be applicable to their situation. So we have a lot of people that are, early on in their journey, and we have some people that are a bit more established with their estate planning. They've been there longer and just have things in place. And so they're able to answer questions quickly. They've been through whatever trials and tribulations you got going on, and are able to quickly answer questions. And so, just super proud of the culture there in the community and excited to have you as part of it. Abel, he says, Jake, do you think XRP will hit double digits this year? I will be using your services shortly after. Also, as of now, I don't have 100K in crypto yet. Close, but not yet. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's close. I think you will very soon. How do I want to answer this question? Couple things. I believe that you're going to have to see utility in order to achieve anything greater than $2 or $3. It's not going to happen on retail speculation. So with that in mind, and that prerequisite, we have to have adoption for Swift. or for the back end of the stock market, or for commodities, or for FX, or systems that would allow enough volume to move over the network and settle in XRP that would support a price above $2 or $3. Okay. The other way I'll answer your question is no. I don't think we'll see double digits. I think it's much more likely if we do see adoption that you would see 3 or 4 digits versus just 2 digits. I think if we see 2 digits, it'll be a very short-lived, short stop before 3 or 4 digits, if it is implemented for any of those systems that I mentioned. So it's kind of an all or nothing. You know, that's what it's been the whole time. It's zero or hero type situation. $2 or $3 doesn't change many people's lives. $10, $50, $100. Yeah. Then you have enough to take care of yourself and your family and your loved ones, and you can start doing wonderful things for other people too. So, excited to see those opportunities come forward for our community. A lot of people in our community in the mastermind hold significant amounts of XRP. That's different for everybody, right? It's whatever you can put into it. But I think a lot of people in the community would be in a very similar position to yourself, and are going to reap the rewards in the not too distant future at all. So excited to have you as part of it, and I look forward to working with you on the other side of appreciation. Vibra Finance, as I'm seeing, it's good to see you on here, by the way. Was on his channel. If you guys don't follow Vibra, I would go check him out. He puts out some good content. Anyway, just happy to support and glad to see you here with us. He says, I'm seeing so much XRP FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt on X, Twitter, by Bitcoin to, but Bitcoin is 150K, a sure thing. Crazy world we live in. You know how I feel on it. I'm the other way around. I think 75,000 for Bitcoin is the top this cycle. People do not like that when I say that. I am completely aware of it. I don't want to be right. We have clients that have significant allocations to Bitcoin. I don't want to be right about that. I would love to see it in, you know, the 6-digit range. I just have a really good pulse and feeling that that's not going to happen this cycle. So, but again, I think we're going to move. There's going to be mountains of liquidity moved into XRP here in short order. Michael Titus, he says, if I'm 100% owner of my LLC, do I need to list my wife on the LLC in order to benefit from the marriage exclusion of 24 million gift to a trust? No, you do not. So she would be part of your estate. The LLC is in your estate. You could use her exclusion. You have spousal rights in most states, and that's how that would fall. So I would just check your state and make sure it has spousal rights. If it doesn't, then you may need to include her as a member on the LLC. There's only like 2 or 3 states that don't have spousal rights in that capacity. So I would expect that you would fall in one of those, but just make sure. And as long as you do, then you should be good to go on the other side in order to gift it into the trust. Man, people watching from Florida. God bless you guys. He says, Dave from Florida, we're in a hurricane, but I needed to see the sweet hairline. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for being here, brother. Especially, you know, in the hurricane and everything that's going on over there. Just prayers go out to you and your family that you guys are okay and your home's okay and everything that you have isn't taken from you. And if anything does go wrong, that insurance is swift and pays out for you. So be praying for all you guys later tonight. And again, I really just appreciate you guys coming on here and taking the time out of your evening to watch my live. Wild Bill, he says, hey, Jake, can you explain what Corda R3 does, how they use XRP and their connections to institutional adoption? I have NDAs with R3 for products that we're building, but I think I can give you what you want here. I won't tread on anything that we're doing with them. So if you were to look up Crunchbase, you could look up R3 on Crunchbase. R3 is the company. Corda is the private permission blockchain that they use. Smart contracts. If you were to look it up on Crunchbase, you would find that the initial investors in R3 were all of the investment banks. Citi, Goldman, BNY, Bank of America, JP Morgan, all of them. Okay. So if they were the people that really invested in the company, who do you think their largest supporters would be? Who do you think their contracts would be with? The investment banks. They also, along with Ripple, go out to other large institutions and countries and talk to them about stablecoins and CBDCs and what that would look like on their blockchain. Corda went the route of not having a native asset to settle transactions within their ecosystem. So it has the capability to utilize XRP or XDC to settle transactions, depending on whatever has the most liquidity and regulatory clarity. So you could assume which of those they might choose here in the US because of the lawsuit with Ripple and the regulatory clarity that XRP has. Confident that they would likely use that as their settlement token. But that would only be outside of the trusted permissioned ecosystems, right? So the banks themselves, if they had a stable coin, they can settle inside that infrastructure without XRP, right? It's just intra-bank settlement. So Bank of America's got their own stable coin. They want to send money from one branch to another. Easy, instant, count funded, right? Now, if Bank of America wants to send money to Wells Fargo, and they also operate on Corda, they would use whatever settlement mechanism was attached to both those environments, which if XRP has legal clarity and enough liquidity in it, XRP is an excellent choice to be able to settle those transactions between those parties. And again, because they don't have to pre-fund accounts, there'd be a lot of transactions that would be moving between those parties, right? Because you could send each specific transaction. You don't need to rack them up on either side and then send one transaction to settle between them. You just send all the transactions that you need as soon as you need them. So saw some wires, international wires that we had for some private investments settle same day last week. So maybe some institutional adoption coming soon. You can look on, I don't know if it's Fiat Leak. I think it's Fiat Leak. If you guys don't follow that website, you can see all the transactions moving across the globe for XRP. It's pretty cool. You can see the volume that's moving over the network. So anyway, hopefully that gives you a little bit better idea of who R3 is, what they do, who they work with, their partners, their funders, and what Corda does. I am a Corda certified business developer, something like that. I'm not a developer. It's just the business side and the application of it. So what the environments look like and the nodes within those ecosystems and how it operates. I have to understand that for some of the stuff that we're building. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question. If it didn't, just follow up with a more context in the chat below. Let's see here. Scott Taylor, he says, thank you for all your work. Thank you for being here. I wouldn't have a reason to do it without all the wonderful people that take their time to watch this stuff. Lots of talk lately about XRP and Swift. Yeah. People debunking it all over the place, saying it's all about Link. Can you explain it for us amateurs? Yeah. So Chainlink is an oracle. Okay. The XRPL does not have oracles native to the network. So what is an oracle? An oracle is what brings data from traditional markets or other applications in the real world into a smart contract on chain. Chainlink is the enterprise leader for that, bar none. That's what they do. That's what their token does. It moves value in that ecosystem, moves data packets in that ecosystem. Okay. Swift needs that. They need something that transmits data from the real world into their ecosystem for whatever smart contracts, release of payment, escrows, other things that they're doing for transmitting their international remittance. Okay. XRP settles all those transactions. Link's not going to settle those transactions. Link is for the Oracle. So you've got two layers there. There's two completely separate blockchains for two completely different reasons. One's moving data and information from the real world on-chain into the smart contracts, and the other one's settling the transactions globally. Okay? So I don't know. Hopefully that explains to you the delineation between Chainlink and the XRPL and the difference between those two tokens. Everybody's an expert because I read something on the internet, right? Swift has two choices for who they can work with for the smart contracts and the movement of value. Okay, so they can work with RippleNet or they can work with R3. Guess what settlement mechanism both of them use to settle transactions? You got it. So it doesn't make a difference. Which one Swift uses, they will still use XRP at the end of the day to settle transactions globally when they move to T+0, which is inevitable. It's the next iteration of their business. So they already implemented the ISO standard. That's a prerequisite. There aren't any ISO compliant tokens, even though people label them as that because there's an association. Like I said, it's a prerequisite for instant settlement. So you have to have a messaging layer where everybody communicates the same way. My best corollary for that is like, I don't know if you've ever used a CSV to upload a bunch of information into something like a CRM or some type of database, right? But you're structuring the data in the same way that the database is going to read it. So each column has a name or category at the top, and you have to put that type of data in that column so that it fills the gap in the database that way. That's what ISO 20022 standards are, but for messaging. So they know the person's name, the amount, all that stuff. All the banks have it in the same way across all of them. So they get that information. They know exactly where it goes. Because before it wasn't like that. People just operated in their own lane, did what they want inside their own bank, and they would get the information, have to restructure it the way they did it. There wasn't a standard across all of banking, but now there is. And so now that prerequisite's in place, the next iteration upon that is instant settlement because you know exactly where the money's supposed to go. You don't have to guess. So appreciate you guys. Abel, thank you on the hair, man. We're like 3 months in on this deal. So I don't know, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's taken a lot of years off. I think I look a little bit younger, which is cool. My wife still thinks it's a little bit weird. That's okay. But thank you for the compliment and the kind words. And Estee Mark Clinic, we did a video about it, but if you are a male and you have some receding hairline or you have some balding, they're in Turkey. Very reasonable rate, great procedure, very clean. Amut was our guy over there, and if you do reach out, we can put you in connection with him. We don't get anything from it. We just, they did a really good job on our stuff, so we want to promote their business. And they, again, save you some money. And you get to travel to Istanbul. So if you haven't been there, I would highly recommend go to the ice cream guys on the street. It was cool. I would go back. So Ms. Sanchez, she says, hey, Jake, how come Ripple is so embedded with governments, institutions, and even the Fed? The government is okay with them launching RLUSD, yet the SEC sues Ripple. How can the government approve yet be suing Ripple? There's some bigger things at play here, Ms. Sanchez. So I don't know if you're familiar with Tesla or Amazon or pretty much any other large corporation that's past the indoctrination portion where they reached a critical mass and then the government kind of quasi-acquired them. In China, they just do this, right? Like corporation becomes large enough, the government gets involved, and they're basically institutionalized inside the government. Here in the U.S., we have capitalism. And so we separate that. There's a private sector and a public sector. Those other corporations that I mentioned went through a rite of passage where the SEC sued them, took a pound of flesh, and then they were rolled in and supported by the government. And what better way to audit all of the books and the financials and the people and everything else other than a lawsuit, right? You, especially during discovery and everything else, you're going to get all the dead bodies. You're going to find it all, okay? And you can wipe it clean or do what you need to, remove people, blah, da, 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 before you roll it in, okay, and support it. That's what's happening to Ripple, in my opinion. You know, I don't have any insider information or anything like that. I've just seen this playbook happen a few times. I'm not that old. I'm in my early 30s, and I'm just pattern recognition is something I have a strong affinity for. And so I've seen this happen before. That's what's happening again with Ripple, and I think they're right at the end of it. I'm going to make a prediction. I made a prediction on the appeal and was wrong. Okay. Well, not quite wrong. Semantics. Okay. They did file a notice of appeal. The SEC has not filed their Form C, which actually designates or would write out what they are appealing. Okay. They have 14 days from the day that they filed the appeal on October 2nd to get that filed with the court. I am going to make a prediction. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to come on here and say I was wrong. That Ripple will settle with the SEC on this appeal. And maybe even before they even file the Form C. And what that will do is it will slam the door shut on pretty much every other network and crypto, and keep Ripple ahead of everybody, and everybody else will still have to go through the ringer with the SEC. Up until this point, I think Ripple really has fought for all of crypto in their lawsuit against the SEC, while being spat on and hated by all of the other players consistently. Talked down to, you guys were selling securities and haha, you got what you're going to get. And then as it started to happen to other players, they thought, oh, now we've got to rally with Ripple. We got to support Ripple because now we're under the gun too. I don't know if Ripple's just tired, or, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't settle and maybe they keep dragging it out. I know Brad said that in a tweet the other day. I just have this feeling that Ripple ends up settling with the SEC, and they're through the gate. XRP is through the gate, and Gary's allowed to continue to run amok on the rest of the industry, and Ripple they're out the other side, and everybody else is under the gun, which would be a huge leap for Ripple and XRP over every other token in the industry, bar none, period. I think XLM might tag along with that. Jed McCaleb over there through stablecoin regulation. If Congress does pass stablecoin regulation, it does allow, basically describes XRP and XLM as bridge currencies in that bill. But again, everything else would be up for negotiation and lawsuits, and there would not be clarity around any of the other assets or companies operating in the space. So it would allow Ripple a huge head start over basically any other corporation in the US. And I don't think we get real regulation on digital assets until the end of 25. So that would give Ripple a full year head start on basically every other company in the space. And if they do move smart contracts onto the mainnet through hooks, they've already got the side chains. They've got the EVM side chain. You've got digital identity coming out on the mainnet. You've got oracles coming to the mainnet. A lot of these amendments are close to being passed at this point. So just there's a lot of things lining up that make me feel like Ripple's just going to take the get out of jail free card, just cut it off. Tired of fighting. Look, we've already dumped, $400 million into this lawsuit. Let's just cut it off for another $200 million. And then we're through the gate. The SEC gets what they want. And XRP's got the clarity. We've got our ability to operate in the US, and everybody that poo-pooed on us for the last 3 years, fight your own battle. Sorry. I could be wrong. Again, this is just my prediction. We'll see what happens. But I think that they could settle with the SEC before that the Form C is ever even filed. Liner Z, sorry, says, hey, Jake, not a question. Just want to thank you for your amazing community you've created in Discord. Very cool. It's awesome to be able to talk and ask questions to like-minded individuals. Yeah, man, the culture that's been developed there, just super proud and blessed to even be a part of the group. The people that we have there are such good people. They're giving. They want to help others. And to your point, they're like-minded and have aligned interest, right? They see it's an outlet for people that are ostracized in their own communities and families to be able to have a conversation with other people and not be made to feel crazy. And actually, be able to go back and forth and learn some things, but also share their knowledge and feel appreciated and respected rather than ostracized is just the best word. I put a tweet out. It was probably a couple weeks ago now when I was traveling. I wore my XRP shirt when I was traveling. And I easily passed, 2,000 or 3,000 people over the period that I was wearing the shirt. I had 2 people be like, nice shirt, man. I would say that if I saw somebody with an XRP hat on or an XRP shirt that wasn't at an XRP event, just out in the wild, I'd be like, got you, it's a tight knit group of people. There's not a whole lot of us. And so you got to support everybody, right? Come together. And again, I'm really excited for what the community becomes on the other side of price appreciation. We are going to lock it down. I've said this before, but I'll just reiterate it again. Other side of price appreciation, we're cutting it off. People are not allowed in for 30 days. And on the other side of that, we're going to be extremely, there's going to be extreme scrutiny for people that we do allow in at that point. And the prices to be in the group will go up 10x. So social will be $250 a month. The Carbon 1 will be $1,000 a month. Carbon 2 will be $2,500 a month. Everybody that's already in the community, you're locked in. Your rate never changes. You're in from the jump. You're good to go. We just want to be very protective of people in the community that we've built and the assets within the community. I'll say this. There's somebody on Discord impersonating me right now that has targeted some of our members. I will not message you. When you join Discord, it's not me. I'm not messaging you. If you message me, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have in there in the group. If you message me directly, I will answer you. But I'm not going to reach out to you. I do not ever reach out to anybody that I might comment and say, hey, great to have you in the group chat. But DM, I do not direct message anyone on Discord ever. You message me, I'll answer, but I'm not ever going to approach you. So just know if somebody does that, they're a scam. Block, delete, report. But anyway, I just want to say thank you for being part of the community. And again, for those that might be watching or want a chance at that and may not have the money to pay, we'd love to have you in there. You can just check it out for a month for free, either the social or the Carbon 1. Just do Beyond Broke, all capital letters, 1, the number 1, and then MO for month, also capital. At checkout, and it should give you a free month. Let's see here. Oh man, gifting the memberships. Appreciate you, Kevin. Carl, he says, trying to motivate my daughter to get involved and interested in what we are doing and looking forward and going forward. She's definitely not interested at 28 years old. Any advice you can give me? I didn't really, I went to school for finance, but until I was in my late 20s, I really didn't kick into this side and figure it out. And it's been a huge learning curve. Like a lot of what I know now, like almost, I would say 98% of what I know now was not taught to me in school. Maybe 2% of what I use on a daily basis was taught in school. I would relate it to something that's meaningful to her. Most of the time, people don't pay attention to anything until it actually affects them. So I don't know what that is for her. If she's in real estate, maybe talk to her about how it's going to change transactions and how she could take advantage of that. If she's a doctor, she's going to resonate with the ability to look at charts and panels without people having to share that data or call their physician in order to get it. There's a lot of applications in a lot of different industries that are going to revolutionize things. And so I would just figure out, what she is interested in and what blockchain and smart contracts would do to change that or make it better, and have a conversation with her about that. Just say, hey, some of the stuff that I'm invested in, I think might be applicable in your industry. And, what are some of the frictions or problems that you currently have? And if you don't know how the app technology could change things, maybe just have that conversation with her and let her know. And maybe she thinks through it and she's like, oh, okay. Yeah, if we can make this more efficient, I could turn that into a business and make a lot of money, right? That'll just get her wheels turning, right? And then she'll see the value in it. Whereas, there's lots of, like, there was a guy that came on Grant Cardone's show, and he was like, XRP is going to $50 million. You look crazy when you say it that way. I would just try to present it to her in a presentable way that's understandable and applicable in her life and has some type of meaning. So I don't know what that is without the context more than just 28 years old, but that's how I would approach her. Let's see here. Thank you, Chadwick, for the memberships, brother. Let's see here. Living Legacy says we have a few more viewers or people watching than we did when he put this on here. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind putting a thumbs up or sharing this or tweeting it out, it does help the algorithm. If you think it's valuable, if you think I'm a schlep and it's not any good, then you don't have to share it or like it. I'm okay with that too. Just appreciate you being here watching and taking the time out of your evening. So, Mando, he says, hey, Jake, thanks for all you do. If I took profits and I diversified into other investments, how do you feel about nuclear and medical innovation like GLP-1s? Where do I learn more, Mando? I think that there's going to be a lot of stuff on the other side of price appreciation. I think so. This is what we help family offices do. We put together a family compass or charter or constitution, whatever you want to call it, where you have a mission statement for your family. You have core values and principles that the next generations should abide by, right? We'll put together an ethics document alongside with that. And that really just kind of talks about what the expectations of somebody that, participates with the family wealth should look like, how they should act, dress, be, traits and things that they should exude, things that you want to foster within your family moving forward. And you put together incentives and disincentives for those things. People might think that's wrong, but if you wanted to instill certain qualities in people, they need some guidelines, right? And if I'm going to be given $1 million, or I'm not going to get, help if I go this direction, you're probably going to go toward the $1 million. So we do that, and then governance document alongside that. But one of the things we look at is the investment thesis for the family. So we will designate that. So most often, people that come into a large amount of wealth have a very good understanding in a niche. Okay, they made their money in a specific vertical in one type of industry or business, and so oftentimes they will continue to buy or do M&A to augment the income for that business. And I think that's a good way to go about it. And maybe not diversify you want some holdings in real estate and traditional stocks and treasuries, and you want some diversification, but you might have 2 or 3 lanes that you are extremely competent in, that you can do due diligence on companies or products or services that are being developed in that niche. And like this is a home run, I'm going to throw in on this one. Those are the things you should be investing in. So for you, if that is nuclear and medical innovation, run it down, brother. I think that both of those industries will continue to have exponential growth over the next decade. So that's another consideration, is where is the technology going? What current businesses are going to be displaced or put out of business by new innovations? And how can we invest in new innovations in certain sectors or verticals before they become well adopted, right? Because that's where the alpha is. That's where the asymmetric bets are. So if you're able to discern that in those companies that you're looking at that are the innovators that have built this GLP-1, whatever that acronym means, I think that's great. It's not my game. Not to say I wouldn't look at it. I definitely would. I always like to learn new things, but that's not our family's investment thesis. So not to say that it won't be, though. If I get a board seat on one of those companies and I learn a lot about it, then that might change. But at the current time, it's not. So I would say one of the things I've really learned over the past 3-4 years here is learn your game, learn your competencies, learn your niche, and double down on that. Every time I've done that, it's been great. Every time I've tried to be like, ooh, what about this lady in the red dress? It's never worked out. I just light my money on fire, which is not fun. But it's taught me too, right? When you lose 6 figures very quickly, you stop doing that. So I would say make sure that you know a lot about the things that you're investing in, and probably have some background or understanding, and have really been able to do due diligence in them. But like I said, if that is the nuclear and medical innovations, on point. Shannon, hey ma'am. She says, Texas here. What? Texas in the house. Me too. Family and I have been praying hard for all of the Florida people all day. Please stay safe out there. Oh, okay. I've got my comms here from my business partner, and he says that GLP-1 medications are like Ozempic or semaglutide. Okay. Yes. I used to was bodybuilder. I should know that acronym. So that's my fault on that. But yeah, I think that those are a game changer for a lot of people to reduce hunger and leptin levels, and probably a good investment. And I don't know what the long-term side effects of those are, right? They still haven't discerned those things because there hasn't been enough history on them. But up to this point, it seems like it's the benefits are outweighing whatever costs are going to be associated. Alfredo, hola! What's going on, man? He says, will ROUSD come out on both the XRPL ledger and ETH network at the same time, Ethereum network at the same time? I read that somewhere. It's coming out first on ETH. Gracias. Yes. So ROUSD is a stable coin, and stable coins have smart contracts, right? So we haven't seen any stable coins on the XRPL because it doesn't have any smart contracts native to the network. We've seen smart contracts on Tron or stable coins on Tron and Ethereum, Binance Chain, WazPay, Stronghold. Like there's tons of other coins and stable coins on other networks, but they're all smart contract capable. So the XRP, not the XRP, the ROUSD is on the side chain. It's on the EVM side chain is where they're issuing it. And then also on Ethereum's network too. So it's still not on the mainnet for the XRPL because there is no smart contract capability for the mainnet, and they're using Axelar for the interoperability between the EVM sidechain and the mainnet to settle those transactions in XRP if they need to. So I know that was probably more complicated than it needed to be, but I wanted to be specific. So they're issuing it on the EVM sidechain on the XRPL is the answer, Alfredo. And thank you for the super chat. Let's see here. Yeah, it'll eventually be on the XRPL once it has smart contract capability. Currently doesn't have that. Thank you for the gifted memberships, Kevin. We appreciate you. Let's see here. No dings tonight. Shout out to Max on turning the bings off. I know people were, griping about some of that. You should be able to hear, and we still got all the gifted memberships. So again, appreciate Chadwick and Kevin for gifting the memberships here on the channel. Jeffrey says, how will institutions insure such massive amounts post-price appreciation given current FDIC limits? Lloyd's of London. it's the insurer that we work with. So we have a couple brokers that work with Lloyd's to underwrite and cut those policies. So Marsh is one of those. They work with Anchorage directly, and we're able to work with them for species insurance on the accounts for our clients. And then we're also in contact with Woodrow Sawyer, who is another broker that works with Lloyd's of London that specializes in crypto. So those are the two insurers or the brokers that we're working with, and Lloyd's would be the actual insurer for the accounts. FDIC is never going to touch crypto. They might touch stable coins and USD dollar denominated stable coins, but never crypto. So you need specialized insurance, and that comes from other providers outside of government entities. So that's who we use. That's who we're in contact with, and that Lloyd's is the insurer on the accounts. Let's see here. Oh man, I'm way up here at the top still. I have not been getting to questions. We're already an hour and 15 in. I'm gonna wrap it up here in about. We'll hang out a little bit longer than 15 minutes, but I'm gonna try to get to more questions and not ramble as much. Appreciate you guys putting up with my rambling. Bandman, aka SF, says, Jake, does this mean our digital assets we self-custody in our LLC will be able to be available to withdraw or change investments? Will the account always have the 100K minimum for our assets as well? Yeah, you can do. You are the manager of your LLC. You can do whatever you want with them on the cold wallet. Move them onto an exchange. I would do it. So if you're going to do that, if you liquidate in a personal account, just make sure that the funds dollars go back into an account associated with the LLC. Ideally, you send it to an exchange that you have an account for the LLC at, and you liquidate inside the LLC account and then move it to your bank account for the LLC. Just for accounting. The other thing I would say is our minimums are actually going to go up. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but we're already at 120 clients. It's likely that we are going to keep it under 300,000 for this quarter. And if we do see price appreciation, it's likely that we will move the minimum closer to 5 million in assets. And again, I would love to be able to take care of everybody. We've already made commitments to people, and I want to be able to deliver on those promises and make sure that we have scalable solutions in place so that we can continue to take in clients and service them at the level that we want to provide and the standards that we're setting. So just in anticipation of that, that's likely what we will do is we will raise the minimums on the other side of price appreciation. Otherwise, we're going to be inundated to a point where we just fall down on our face. I'm scaling as fast as we can. We are adding headcount, which also adds to overhead. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, what I'm doing right now is not profitable. It's losing money. But I'm okay with that because I want to make sure that we have these things in place. I see the opportunity and the benefits for the community if this exists. And so, we want to make sure that we are able to provide a high level of service, and we are being innovative and competing in the market and making sure that we're setting standards, like I said. So with that, probably going to raise minimums closer to 5 million on the other side of price appreciation. Let's see here. Braden Barrett says, I don't see how XRP doesn't move in price very much soon with everything lining up and RLUSD dropping. I tend to agree with you, Braden. I'm seeing some pretty significant movement to the upside in the not too distant future. Again, contingent on the domino theory playing out. We're looking for an unwind of the reverse carry trade in Japan. We're looking for ETFs launching by institutions for XRP to move liquidity into it as they need to. That's the tell for me. I put out a tweet on X the other day about the canary in the coal mine. Canary Capital filed their S1 yesterday for their XRP ETF. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think in the very near future, we're going to see a large amount of liquidity move into XRP. I don't know if it'll be 589. That number means a lot of things to a lot of people, but I do anticipate, high double digits, low 3 digits when we do see adoption and usage of XRP. Back and forth in the chat. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and pull it on down to the bottom so we can get some of these questions. This is good. Jay says, hey, buddy, elections coming up. Yes, they are. Would you say it matters who gets in? This technology is too big. This train cannot be stopped. It's like an industrial revolution. I agree, Jay. I was just talking to our chief compliance officer earlier today. I don't think it matters at this point. I think that the wheels are turning. I think that the train has left the station, Rosie Rio style, and it's not going to matter who ends up winning the election. I think the traction that other tokens might get would matter. I think Trump getting in would be more of a proponent of crypto and would remove Gensler, and likely move Hester or somebody else into that seat that would foster innovation here in the U.S. and help other companies compete against Ripple. But for Ripple and XRP, I don't think it matters either way. I think that they're already through the gate, and they're probably going to close it behind them. We'll see if I'm right on the settlement or not. But if they do that, it does that. And if the Dems, if Kamala gets in there and she keeps Gary where he's at, and that doesn't change, that doesn't bode well for the rest of crypto. We just saw another Wells notice against Crypto.com, which CRO is a security. Okay, like Binance token, it's a security. Both of those are securities. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. It's an investment contract. Anyway, I won't spend a whole lot of time there, but they sued the SEC. They filed a lawsuit against them after they issued the Wells notice instead of the other way around. So there's just going to continue to be litigation back and forth between the SEC and other companies that are in the space, and it's going to slow down innovation. But I think Ripple's already been through that. I think they're out on the other side of it. I think they're the first one through the gate, and I think they're going to have first mover advantage over pretty much every other company and technology here in the U.S., which, take it or leave it, that's just my opinion. So appreciate the questions and the support, brother. Andrew says, how important do you see XDC in the coming years? I think it's super important for international trade finance. In that specific niche and application, supply chain and logistics finance, trade finance, huge. Other things, if there are contracts that people are turning into convertible notes or using as collateral, cool. But again, it's primarily trade finance. So I think it's important. I think that it'll be used. I think that Atul and Ritesh are sharp guys. I just don't see any traction for that network in any other application, personally. Kevin says, I'm finally able to afford the 1 month membership. Don't spoil your dinner. Let's see here. Dave J. Jake, for those that are in the mastermind but have not yet funded custody and LLCs, do you plan to after price appreciation? But do plan to, sorry. Can't read, it's getting late. Do you still get the 100K option? I would love to offer that. We had a cutoff date in the mastermind for a grandfathered agreement that we ran earlier this year for the ability to get into the wealth management side of things. I wish that I could continue to do that. You'll get benefits. We'll continue to provide other things there for the community, deals specifically, and other education and resources and benefits. And there will be other discounts, but we will have to raise minimums. Again, I can't forego the promises that I've already made to people that have been proactive and have supported us, and loyalty is huge to me. So people that are in mastermind, love you guys, and I will make sure to bend over backwards and do everything that I can to support people. But there's certain things where I've made promises to people and I can't let them down just to appease everybody else. And so because of that, on the other side of price appreciation, it's likely that we will raise the minimum for Digital Wealth Partners to 5 million in assets under management in order to be able to work with us. If you're close to 100K now, I anticipate that you will probably meet that minimum on the other side of price appreciation. What would that be? 5 million's on a 5x, be 10, be like a 50x. So what is that? Like a $50 XRP if you had 100K right now. That's 100,000 XRP. That's not $100,000 invested. So, yeah, I wish we could just hold it at that level. We do work with family offices. That is the long-term goal of Digital Ascension Group and Digital Family Office, is to work with people that are north of 20 million in AUM and help them make sure that they can scale and give them the systems and processes and frameworks and benefits that they're looking for. And again, we will do everything we can for those that are in the community, but we are going to have to raise those minimums in order to make sure that we can deliver on the promises we've already made and make sure that systems are scalable so that we can Q1 open it up. And at that point, we may lower the minimum again, just so that I don't want to sacrifice level of service and our standards and make promises to people that we can't keep. So and those are the reasons. So hopefully that's understandable. Let's see here. James says, I just ordered the LLC with the anticipation of 100K minimum to get into institutional custody. I was planning on now in Q1 will be contacting us prior to raising. Yeah, we'll definitely let everybody know, and we'll slip people in. Like I said, we still got another 120 slots that we will fill, maybe a bit more than that, closer to like 180 slots within this quarter. And those people will come from the mastermind. I will say that. Like it's unlikely that those people will come from outside the mastermind. So yeah, if you've already got the LLC, then you're positioned and you're an easy onboard. Like we'll take care of you. It's not like it's just gonna be this hard. Nope. Not dealing with you type situation. If you've put forth effort and been proactive and set yourself up, we will make sure that you're taken care of. So if you fall in that group, James, don't feel like you're stuck out until Q1. We'll make sure that you get situated. Rocket Bobby says if XRP hits 10K, I'll pass out. I don't think you're going to get that out the gate. I think eventually, yeah, there's a real chance that XRP does hit $10,000 a piece. My expectation for that's a little bit, a couple years out, 2 or 3 years out from now. It would have to have derivatives. That's the contingency for that. You need XRP to be settling derivatives in order to get past 10K or get up to 10K in value. So, and I think that'll happen. I mean, we got the CME, pulling data and using XRP. So, I'm confident that at some point in the next 2-3 years, we will see a $10,000 XRP. XRP Peaky Blinders. All I want out of the mastermind is that you remember the name Peaky. So when I come back and offer value, we can have a 5-minute conversation. Perfect, brother. Yeah, I always appreciate your support in the comments here. Like Peaky Blinders, my wife and I watched, that series. So good stuff. I like the name. He has also asked, Jake, do you ever come across people who need a PML or EMD or larger amounts for double closings or otherwise? You're probably providing this already. Just curious, tapping in. DM me on Twitter if you can, and we can go back and forth on it. Let's see here. We're almost at an hour and a half here. Grab a couple more questions before we wrap it up for tonight. Living Legacy says all in XRP. XLM moves with XRP. So what's the difference? He must have been answering the question. I guess he's going back and forth with Kevin Huber. So I think XLM kind of like tags along, right? I think XRP and Ripple went through the ringer with regulators. And I think XLM is going to just get brought along by proxy with the stablecoin regs. When they pass that, it meets the qualifications for a bridge currency. And I think that it'll just get pulled along with it. Now, there might be a discrepancy in a period of time where there's ETFs launched for XRP and not for XLM, because that's when they've decoupled in the past. When BlackRock launched when they announced and somebody found they didn't even announce, when somebody found the trust that they filed for the iShares XRP ETF last year in Delaware, we saw XRP jump 10% in one hour, and XLM just stayed flat. So my anticipation is that when we see these S1s approved by the SEC and liquidity flows into XRP, there's going to be a decoupling of XRP and XLM until stablecoin regulations passed, and then you're probably going to see XLM come online and be used in Hyperledger in those transactions for retail-facing consumers. I think that's maybe a little bit further out too. I think, wholesale CBDCs and back-end settlement for large financial institutions comes first, and then retail applications come a little bit later on. Go back down here to the bottom. David Baker says thoughts on RLUSD burning 2 million today. Didn't know that happened. You got to test the functionality on it, though. So Tether burns Tether all the time when they don't have enough reserves to back it. Same thing with USDC. So you need the capability to be able to issue and burn when you need to. So I'm sure that they had enough collateral to issue the RLUSD, and then they wanted to make sure that they could burn it and reduce the supply if they needed to. You need all that functionality in order for that to work. So I think they're just testing things in beta. I wouldn't put too much stock in it. I think that they need to. So, well, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Like I said at the beginning, and a couple of people have pointed out, they've already got their LLCs in place. If that's something that you want to do, you can work with us. We provide that for people. If you go work with an attorney, it's going to cost you about $3,000 to get everything set up. So we do EIN filing, articles of incorporation, registered agent, BOIR, because you have to have that here in 2024. And then the main cost that most attorneys are going to have for you is going to be the operating agreement that's specialized for a holding company for digital assets. If you have that drafted by an attorney, it's going to be somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500. We give you all that for $3,000, but I think there's a coupon code. If you want the coupon code, it's 50% off, so it's $1,500 all in for all of that. You just message us on the website and let us know, or you come into the mastermind and we have the information there, obviously. So appreciate everybody. Hopefully, you got some value out of this. If you haven't liked, subscribe, please do so. Shout out to Peaky. He snuck in here with the super chat at the end. He said, "God bless, good night. Jake's good people, and my hairline is jealous." Appreciate you, brother. Thanks again for the super chat and all the support. I wish you guys, if you are over there in the hurricane, please stay safe. You will be in my prayers. I hope your family is safe. I hope that you don't have anybody that's living there that is in that situation. If they are, they've gotten out. So God bless you guys. Hope you have a wonderful week. We will see you all back again next Monday at same time, 9 p.m. But until then, wish you the best, and we will see y'all on the next one.